Hello, and welcome to the second episode of the SERA Space Collective. I'm your host, Sam Hutchison, co founder of the Space Exploration and Research Agency, or SERA for short. Today, my guest is Dr. Srimathy Kesan, founder and CEO of Space Kidz India, an Indian satellite startup that has already launched 4 orbital satellites. For their next mission, ShaktiSat, they're mobilizing 12,000 schoolgirls from 108 countries across the planet to participate in the manufacture and assembly of a lunar satellite. Thank you for joining us and enjoy the show. Dr. Kesan, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you for the invitation. I'm so excited to be here with you.
No, it's great to be here. I think one of the first things I'd like to give our audience a sense of before we go into your background and everything that Space Kidz India is up to is could you give us a sense of how exciting it is to be involved in the Indian space sector at the moment? It's been an extraordinary sort of journey over the last 10 years. And in my travels in India, I really get a sense that everyone has really got the space bug real bad. It must have been an incredible sort of transformation.
Absolutely, Sam, because I loved space from the day when Wing Commander Rakesh Sharma, the only Indian cosmonaut who went into space, and when the then Prime Minister asked him how was India from space, and he mentioned "Sare jahan se acha Hindu sita hamara." Those were the words that are still ringing in our ears. So I can
What do
say,
they mean? What do they
oh,
mean?
yes, I think I should have said that. Yes, it means to say the world is so beautiful, but India is very special. It looks extremely beautiful from space. So, because I mean, we have to thank Russia for taking Rakesh Sharma there so that we have first-hand information of how space looked and in
Mhm.
that era. So from there, we've transitioned, and today, I think if you have to be in a place where space is happening, I think that is India. And especially after, seriously, after we were having just about 1 or 2 launches every year, and the bigger satellites went from French Guiana, and so the front pages did not really cover the space stories and everything. But now everything is space, especially after the Chandrayaan 3, the landing close to the South Pole. I think India's crazy about cricket. I hope you know that. And our
Sure.
stadiums are completely full. And after
Hmm.
cricket, if I have to say that could draw people of the entire country, I think it's space industry. So I'm
That,
super excited to be here. And the
mhm.
icing or the cherry on the cake is I am the only OG or the woman founder to be there for years doing all
Mhm.
this. So now I am really waiting to bring in a whole brigade of women to capture this industry.
So I guess two questions coming out of that. I think the first is everyone who works in the space industry knows that it's sometimes a difficult argument to make that we should spend on space exploration and research. There are always other problems to deal with. There are always criticisms made, saying, why are we doing this? When we have roads that need to be done, we have hospitals that need to be built. Has the Indian public embraced the need or the requirement for investing in space exploration?
Well, I should say it is pre Chandrayaan and post Chandrayaan. The pre Chandrayaan was, you exactly nailed it by saying we needed roads, we needed toilets, we need
Mhm.
education,
Mhm.
fees for the children. So, why are you investing on space? But post Chandrayaan 3, people
Mhm.
have really understood because our space agency has taken that, effort to create that awareness from the grassroots level to tell people that if you have to know about Earth, you need to do a space travel. So we definitely need to invest that little bit. And you know, Indians, we are so good in handling finances, and
Hmm.
you know, we make complicated stuff with economical budgets. So just
Sure.
like our Mangalyaan mission and everything. So that's how I think we are able to, and the successes, you know, continuous successes also, you know, give that kind of a feel for the audience or the general public that these scientists are really putting an effort for our sake, for humanity's sake. So I think we need to stand by them. More than all that, the children, you know, the youth population, I think, you know, space has really captivated everybody's heart. So if the children are happy, the parents have to be happy in India. You have no choice whatsoever. So that's the reason I think we are in the right time at the right place.
And of course, Space Kids India, it's got kids in the name. So getting children excited about space is something you know a lot about. Tell us a little bit more about Space Kids, how it came about, what your journey was. One of the things that we'd like to talk about on this podcast is giving people a sense that no matter where they are and what resources they have, even if they're in a country that I know when you started out, the Indian space economy was nothing like as developed as it is today, but you still went out, you trailblazed, and give people a sense of what that journey looks like, what the first steps are. So I'd love to understand more, you know, about your journey and what Space Kids is doing and how you've arrived, you know, at this momentous sort of moment in Indian space exploration history.
Thank you, Sam, for this question. I mean, very close to my heart. Uh, so, Space Kids, first, I will address the name. Why kids? People have this question, you know, when you're an aerospace startup and, you know, when you're doing serious business, if you have to
Mhm.
enter, you know, the commercial market, I don't think you should have kids in your name. You know, this is a comment that is made everywhere that I walk in. And for
Sure.
me, I always felt if you do not have a kid within you, if you do not have that curiosity within you, you are a dead person. So you cannot invent, you cannot innovate. It is just for the heck of earning money, you just do that. But when there is a kid within you, when there is that passion oozing out,
Hmm.
I'm sure innovations come out. So I want to reiterate and tell people it's no matter you are 4 or 40 or 80, you are a kid within yourself. So keep that going. And that's the reason Space Kids is not only for the kid within you, it's of course, you know, the space above you and the platform that we create for children. So this is a combination, and that's where Space Kids was born. And to talk about my journey, it all started back then in 2009 when a friend of mine gave me an opportunity to go to Miami for a conference. And
Hmm.
in that conference, it was a travel conference. There were at least about 300 exhibitors. And my only vision went and struck at the booth that had Kennedy Space Center on it. That's
Hmm.
it. I was so fascinated, just like a kid in a candy store. I just stood there. It was just 2 days, and both the days I was just standing there interacting with them, getting excited because I thought going to NASA was only by scientists or astronauts, and it was not for common people. But the
Hmm.
way the course directors and astronauts explained everything, I went berserk. And to give a prehistory to this history,
Sure.
I hailed rather from Hyderabad, town in Andhra Pradesh, or state of Andhra Pradesh, and I come from a very very humble family, and my father wanted me. He wanted to give a good education so that we moved forward and we did good in life. But that era, girl children would be educated until graduation, and wedding was always on the cards. No matter what you did, it was only wedding. A
Hmm.
girl is raised to be a good wife, a good mother. That's all. So I belong to that era. So I was an all-rounder in school, in college. I played 10 nationals, basketball nationals. I was a state athlete. I was a paratrooper. I was the first girl cadet to hold a sword and command the parade. I went to the Delhi Republic Day where I commanded the parade, and back to my city, and the first cadet to hold sword and parade. And that's when the then general was so excited to see my commendations, and he said, I want this girl to get into the armed forces. I was an all India silver medalist in firing. He said, oh my God, this girl, I think she needs to be in the armed forces. He called for my dad and he said, let her complete her graduation. I was in the end of my second year of graduation. He said, let her complete her graduation. Probably we'll give some recommendations and everything. Let her work on her test and everything. We will get her into the armed forces. We need such girls. My dad was super thrilled. And from behind, he pulled out my wedding card. The same day,
What is it? What is it? What is a wedding card? I said, what is
a
a wedding
wedding,
card?
okay, that's a wedding invitation of myself that I
To
was
your
getting
own wedding,
married, my
right?
own wedding. So I was getting married in a week's time. I was leaving from Hyderabad to Chennai, where I reside now in Tamil Nadu. And after the parade, I was taking the train straight away. Everybody went mad crazy. They said, how could you get your daughter married? She's just 18. But that's
Mm-hmm.
culture in India then. It
Sure.
was culture then. And so at 18, from sword, I directly jump into the spatula, the Indian stick where we make the pancakes. So I
Sure.
was too good at making pancakes with both my hands.
Mm-hmm.
But there was one thing that was there well within myself, that I always felt there was a purpose of every individual's birth. And definitely, I was born for a reason. And without that, Srimati is never going to kick the bucket. I had two incidents that I had, very near death experiences. One at the age of 21, I had a tumor. And then now, recently, 2 years ago, where I went on to the ventilator for COVID. But
Oh wow.
yet, today, I am smiling and happy because I know my purpose of birth is to bring the whole brigade of girls, as I mentioned to you, on the table in this industry called space. We want more representation. So that is it. So from 18, the
And
day I got married, 18 years of sabbatical, 18 years I was at home. And I didn't give up. I didn't give up. So that friend of mine, and the 18th year, she came like an angel, pulled me. She gave me the opportunity to go to NASA, and rest is history. So I said, this is what is my calling. So I stepped into
mhm,
NASA, and I said, okay, I'm going to take children, give them that experiential learning, because that was what gap in the Indian system, where
okay,
travel to different places and educating children, especially in the space industry. If there were
okay,
two children, it was engineer or doctor. That's it. So you don't think beyond. So I
hmm
wanted to open a new avenue called space. So initially it was space experiential learning, space education, but then
hmm
subsequently it became building satellites, because I got so excited going to NASA, ESA, and GCTC, touching the spacecrafts. Oh my God, it was fabulous. And I said, we are going to build satellites. And people said, you are crazy. Maybe because 18 years of sabbatical has given you a little bit of, something really
sure.
wrong with some wire in your brain. You need to get that tweaked. But when you take that first bold step confidently, be it whatsoever, come what may be, I think you can just do it, because the universe that you set up behind me just conspires, and we are there to do it. So Space Kids was born like that, as an
So you
experiential
started.
learning organization.
Sure.
experiential organization. And then I was given the ambassador status to the NASA, ESA, and the GCTC space camps. I
Hmm.
said that was not enough. That was not enough. From there,
So
moved
how
on.
did you make that? How did you make that transition from an educational entity to one that is actually designing, manufacturing, building, launching, and operating satellites?
Uh, One incident actually turned this whole idea. There were a couple of children who come from very, very humble backgrounds and who wanted to visit NASA. And NASA doesn't allow anybody free of cost, neither the flights nor the visas. Nobody gets free of cost. So every dollar is expensive for these kids. So I was literally worried, and I was taken aback that probably I need to do something beyond this so that I can bring these children into the mainframe.
Hmm.
And I tried hard, but I could just give one or two children, you know, the possibility and opportunity to travel there. But what about the rest of the world? So I said, okay, let's do reverse engineering. Let's build a miniature version of NASA in India. Let's do that. So I got an opportunity to meet the chief minister. I would just write letters. I would just bombard everybody with whatever came. I said, these are our kids, and we need to do this for our children. Please, sir, I want to come and meet you. I will give you a proposal. He will say, okay, I don't know from where I get all these ideas, because people call me crazy. He says, how can you write to a chief minister like that? I said, he's a man, he's a human being, I'm a human being, I want to do something like this. So what if I have to just send an email? I'm not doing anything wrong. So this is
Hmm.
how, you won't believe, I got the opportunity to interact with our honorable prime minister. And I made a presentation to him, and I said, our Indian children need this. So everybody went gaga. They were so happy. They said, yes, we have to do this. But then it's still in the backyard. We are yet to, fruitify that. So if you have to do something big, only then people's head will turn around and look at you.
Sure.
That was constantly there in my mind. So do something big so that everybody listens to you, at least to whatever you're trying to tell them. And that's
So
where I went crazy building satellites.
So I mean, that's a really interesting way to sort of go about it. So you built the educational organization first, realized that rather than those children growing up and then leaving India and potentially going to Europe
Yes.
or America, you built a company that could employ the children that you'd educated directly in India. That's amazing. Um, that's a wonderful idea. You've vertically integrated an educational and entrepreneurial ecosystem.
Thank you, Sam. You just nailed it. This is the
Yeah.
exact thought process that I had.
Hmm.
And
And so, how do you balance that organizationally? I mean, I think that's really interesting. So you have effectively educational outreach. We can talk about some specific examples, for example, on ShaktiSat in a moment. So you have one part of your company that is focused on generating the skills that the Indian space economy needs to succeed. And then another part of your organization that is actually designing, building, and manufacturing satellites. How do you manage that balance? Do you have, is it a sort of split organization? Is there one part that is sort of NGO and another that's for profit? Or have you rolled everything into one?
no, we do have an NGO. We have a foundation
Mhm.
called the Sky Star Foundation,
Sure.
where we do all these outreach programs, and we build our. I advocate for girls, and I want girls into this industry. So that's the reason our Azadi Sat that was built by 750 rural girls of India for the 75th Indian independence. So that was the first bold step that I could take, and that's when I was on the ventilator when I made the proposal to ISRO.
Oh, wow. And how does that? Can you just walk us through step by step? What? How do you get those girls involved? What role do they play in the satellite design and manufacture? And how does that sort of throughput to either a scientific or a commercial satellite? How do you find
Now,
them? How do you educate
yes,
them? How are they involved? And then I think obviously you've got ShaktiSat coming up, which is that on a much larger scale globally. So,
Right, right. So this was started. I seek the help of Niti Aayog, the governmental organization, which has the list of all the government schools of India. So
mhm,
I had a friend there, so I'd taken a list of the schools and I started individually calling all these schools to get them on board. So about 75 schools from all the states of the country, I had onboarded them, and my team of young children, I should say, young adults. Okay, for me they are
young.
kids because they were with me from grade eighth. So now they are no more kids, but yet for me they are. And so I have a team of about seven of them, qualified for mechanical, electronics, and RF and everything. So that's how we built these 27 missions. And so I had different dialects also. So what we did was we built different kinds of payloads. So 75 payloads for these 750 girls. We taught them what is a payload, what is a spacecraft, where does it
Mhm,
seed, how are these integrated on a PCB board, how do you design a PCB board, what is programming. So all the nuances of satellite building. But
mhm,
in a time frame of 6 to 8 months, they cannot become scientists. But the only thing that we could do is at least ignite their curiosity,
mhm.
ignite that learning, and ignite and tell them that there is something like this particular industry which is waiting to welcome all of you. So that is what gave me that satisfaction to build Azadi Sat. So these payloads were built by these children and they would send it to us. We would take classes online, send them the board, send them the components, and send them videos to show them how to solder the components and how to program and everything. They would send us back, and our team would integrate it into a 8U satellite. So we built the 8U satellite, integrated that, and launched it on SSLV, the Small Satellite Launch Vehicle of India, on the
Mhm.
10th of February 2023. So it
My
was a super
birthday.
successful mission. Oh my God! I
There you
don't know
go.
how things happen.
Oh,
Oh God, God
there you go.
bless. So it was a super successful launch. We had these tiny GS antennas and all given to these girls, and that's how we got the data with our antenna that we had, the ground station that we have, and we disseminated the data and we told them what is the data, what do you do with the data, and everything. So as they are in high school and everything, these children have imbibed this in deep into their soul, and you won't believe there are so many children who want to become cosmonauts, who want to be fighter pilots. I mean, that
Sure.
was something so exciting for me that this terminology itself is huge. Moving on from there, we Indians believe in one earth, one family. So that is where the concept of Shakti Sat was born.
Before
So
we move
as
on to CharitySat, if I can just sort of go back, I think it's so exciting, this idea of effectively sort of decentralizing the assembly and manufacture of these satellites. Obviously, when people think about the space industry, when they think about satellites and rockets, the sort of levels of quality assurance and redundancy are incredibly high. How did you manage that process, in terms of making sure that the work that was being done was to a consistent standard? Were you doing sort of quality assurance testing of the components that they'd assembled before they go onto the satellite? It's an extraordinary feat.
Absolutely. So ISRO has every week we had to show our work, and we had to. The QC was done basically by ISRO. They had a team of
Okay.
14 members. They had a team of 14 members. So every week we had review meetings, and we had to showcase everything there. Our testings were done at ISRO. So the levels were given by them, and the reports would go from ISRO to the directors. And once all these things were approved and were to the standard that it could be seated on the rocket, then
Yeah.
the approval came, and the authorization team from InSpace, the
Yeah.
chairman InSpace was, had authorized, and then it went on board the SSLV.
And it worked.
Of course,
Good.
of course, of course.
That's
It was
that's the
so
important part.
happy. Yes,
Mhm.
the first signal. The first signal that it sends, oh my God, your heart rate goes so high. It's launched, and you just wait for the pass to happen. And the first pass is sometimes very random, middle of the night, and the launch is during the afternoon. So that period, your heart is literally in your hand.
There's nothing like it.
So it worked. Yeah, it worked for 3 months. We got the data, and after which, it succumbed.
And so, sorry, just again, just to understand the programmatics, what you've effectively, the design of the satellites is centralized with your team,
Yes,
correct?
yes,
And
yes,
then
yes.
you're cutting up all of the different design elements for manufacture, and you're sending them all across the country,
That's right.
educating the children how to do it. They're doing the work. It's coming back. Quality assurance testing, integration, overall
Yes.
mission payload integration with the rocket, and off it goes. A lot of people would have said that was not possible. A lovely idea, great education program, but in terms of actually building and manufacturing and launching a satellite, that's not a sustainable model. I think it's incredible that you've pulled that off. And
Oh,
you mentioned ShaktiSat. ShaktiSat seems like it's integrating all the lessons learned from your previous uh, satellites
Azadi Sat. Azadi Sat. Yes.
and going
It's a leap.
one stage bigger.
Yes, it's a real leap. And here it is to give hope again to the girls. And space is not confined to one country, one person, one agency. So that's the reason opening these doors for 108 countries. And these are all small countries, small islands. We do not have US, we do not have Russia, we do not have China, we do not have Japan. All of them can give the money, but we are working with smaller countries, getting these girls on board. We're building a beautiful curriculum for them, which is a combination of textbook and videos, so that it is easily understandable. And we are actually translating the whole thing into Portuguese and Spanish and French and Indonesian. So these are the languages we are also focusing on translating the whole curriculum, then send it out to all these girls so that they get educated. And after that, a period of 6 months, we handpick one child from each country. And
Mhm.
this 108 kids come to India during the month of January of 2026. And here they will be divided into 4 teams and build 4 payloads. So we have a team, that we have a core team, and the core team will work on integration again. And we are also building a Luna transfer vehicle, with support from a UK organization, space organization, called, I mean, he's also Sam, by the way. So Meridian Space Command. So we're
Okay.
building a lunar, yeah, we're building a lunar transfer vehicle, and that's going to be acting like an orbiter. So these payloads will go on that, and we will also have a scientific payload just to, the lunar flashlight. We want to find water molecules and ice on
Sure.
the surface of the moon, and of course we'll have cameras. And then going so far, we thought let's not just do the orbit, let's try landing. So what we're going to do is we're going to be hard landing, trying to hard land on the moon, and we're going to be leaving a beautiful, girl there, who will again be the icon or the beacon of hope for every girl child around the world. Just to say that dream big, and it is possible.
So there's two elements to the program.
Yes.
One is an orbital satellite, and the other is a lunar transfer vehicle. Correct?
Correct, because we wish to, launch it from Indian soil. And if we have to launch it from Indian soil, we have to use a PSLV, or the option is to wait until our Chandrayaan mission takes off. And the Chandrayaan mission probably will take off in the next 2 or 3 years. So we cannot be waiting for that. So the other alternative that we thought was, let's fly on a PSLV. And let's, the PSLV will drop us there at an altitude of 400, 500, whatever kilometers. And from there, with burns, we will go to the moon. The lunar injection will happen. And then subsequently, the hard landing on the moon will happen. So that we are giving it a 2 month time. So the launch probably will happen in September of 2026. And
Okay.
yeah, the working period, we are thinking of 2 months. So the mission should end by the end of 2026.
Well, I mean, it's exciting times for non-governmental lunar exploration. I mean, there was a landing, almost a week ago of the
Oh
second.
yes, the blue ghost. Yes, yes. That
So
was a
it's all
beautiful
possible.
landing.
An obvious question, Dr. Kasan, that I'm sure a lot of people are thinking about is how do you fund all this? When you're having a phenomenal vision, as you've had, that's one piece of it. Consensus building with governmental and non-governmental and private organizations is a second piece of this. But space costs money. How
Yes.
have you built a business case around Space Kids India? Where are you getting or looking to get funding for your next mission?
Well, here I have to divide it into two. One is the foundation that we have, and one is this partnership company that we have. The partnership company, because I'm a literal OG, and because we're there from 2010, transitioned
Mhm.
from a solopreneur to a partnership in 2016, and we did not have startup, concept back then. So
Okay.
2020, the concept was, broadly spoken in India, and that's where we applied for the startup certification and everything. So it's a transition from there. So initially, nobody would believe that, with children you could build a satellite and you could go to space. No way. So people thought I was, yeah, you can call it whatever, because there were so
Crazy.
many professors. Yeah, there were so many professors and everyone, 40 years in this industry, and they've not taken this bold step. This woman comes here, she's not even an air engineer, and how can she dream of doing something like this? So, but all these questions push me hard. So initially it was completely bootstrapped, and until a stage where we could prove that our systems were right, and we could, we've flown about 19 high altitude balloons where we did live transmission and everything. So that's where we could, and we retrieved the payloads. So that all start, people have started thinking that yes, she means business. And then, when we built the world's lightest payload that went up a NASA Stereo Orion, in the year 2017, that opened or rolled eyes. And people started noticing. Then subsequently, Satish Dhawan happened, and we were called by ISRO, and we were given an opportunity to fly in the fourth stage in the POEM platform. So that again, gave a lot of visibility. So that is where, Hexaware, a corporate company, came in and they said, "Oh my God, you are doing a fabulous job. So we'll build a foundation." I said, "I don't have anything. So to build a foundation," they said, "Don't worry. We're so happy that you're doing for the future generation. So let's stand by you." And they set up a foundation for us, and they supported us and they're rather supporting us for the last 5 years. And you know how expensive space is. So one component, and I'm like, "Oh, no, 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 you can't throw the component, please." So, we're so frugal with the components and everything.
Sure.
But yes, ISRO is supporting us with regards to the testing and everything. And because I advocate for girls, and that too from the humble backgrounds, our prime minister was kind enough to not charge us for the launch. So that
Oh, wow.
way, yeah,
Free launch.
that it was a huge, yes, yes. So
That's
it was,
great.
yes, that was a huge support that both the chairman, Dr. Somnath here, and Dr. Goenka, both of them had made a presentation to the prime minister. He met the girls who actually participated in the mission, and he was so convinced, and he said, "Oh my God, so if these children are learning this at this age, I'm
Mhm.
sure India's got a bright future." So that's what our science and technology minister also mentioned. But moving ahead, money is everything. So just a
Sure.
free launch will not help us, do everything. So we have won the IDEX challenge, the Armed Forces challenge for the deployer. We built a deployer, we designed,
Okay.
and for which we won. So that is the commercial segment. So we are going to build deployers, and we are going to be probably getting business for that, and we would see if we can. But this industry, you cannot make 10 deployers and sell 10 deployers in a month. It is like in a year, if you do one or two deployers, it's a huge thing. But
Sure.
my
So that's
mission and vision,
just to understand. So you see that as the sort of commercial foundation of the organization.
yes,
So you've identified a demand in the market. You've built a capability. Um, that's where your sort of bottom line revenues are going to be coming, and then you're building through partnerships, through support from government organizations, these more ambitious, educational orientated programs. I think it's really, really interesting because we started talking about whether the Indian public was supportive of expenditure on space exploration, and it's always framed as, I think there's two things. One, it's always framed as you're going to do this stuff in space when we've got all these things going on that need fixing. And I think it is a challenge for the space industry. I think in some ways the space industry has done too good a job of making itself essential to the way that the modern world works. I was joking with a friend of mine the other day. If you really wanted to explain to people how essential investment in space technology and exploration is, turn off all the satellites for a day. See what happens to those. See what happens to those kids when they can't access YouTube Shorts. And they'll understand the importance. But I think
of satellites.
often the benefits are hard to understand and indirect. And I think
Yes,
what's so interesting and innovative about what you're doing, and I honestly, if you come to me and said that this is what you were planning to do, and you were going to actually manufacture a satellite with children, I would have said no, it's not possible. But what I think is so interesting is that you're integrating the societal benefits directly into a commercial activity.
yes,
That's so interesting, and I think it's obviously scalable and um, mind-blowingly ambitious and inspiring. So, can I ask a dumb question? People always love to know about the money. What's the budget for this lunar lander? What do you guys? I know we mentioned at the beginning that one of the things that India is proud of is being good with money. And I think it was a much publicized fact that India was able to land a lander on the moon for less than it cost to make the movie Interstellar.
yes.
We're seeing these commercial landers and rovers, land much more frequently, and they're going to continue to land with much more frequency. What's the budget? I'm super interested.
uh, it's budgeted between 15 to 17 million dollars.
50 to 70.
No, 15 to 17.
Okay, so you're trying to break the record for the cheapest lunar landing, effectively.
Exactly, exactly. You got
And
it.
just
You
because
got it.
it was such a beautiful image, what this idea of landing a statue
A
of a figure of
doll,
a young woman,
a doll. Yeah.
a doll. Okay, yeah, you've got to watch out on the weight requirement. How would that work? Would it be deployed? Sort of, would
Yes.
it be internal to the capsule?
Yeah.
It's
It
an
will be.
incredibly beautiful image.
It will be deployed. It will be deployed, and it will carry. The eyes will have the lens, and it will have a couple of communication sensors, so that when it hard lands, it captures the image there on the moon, and it sends the data down. And then once it hard lands, we know da 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 da. We get the signals, and
Okay.
that's it. Yeah.
That's, yeah, that's an astoundingly beautiful image and idea, and I really hope it pulls off. Can I circle back? Um, Obviously, you mentioned that your personal journey as a woman in India was challenging. You had an 18-year session behind the spatula before you began this current phase. No, but joking apart, is that changing in India now? Are you seeing more women getting involved in aerospace, in space? How's that being received? Because I know that there are large elements of it in India that are very culturally conservative. Is that changing? Apart from yourself, who else is changing that perception? How much further is there to go, and what can be done to continue to encourage young women to think big, dream big, and take that step, not take an 18-year sort of sabbatical, but go straight into things. Outside of Space Kids India, what else is happening?
Well, there is a change, probably like about 2 to 3%, I should say. But again, here there is, I've not seen any one woman founder coming directly working into deep tech or the defense space. You have
Okay.
co-founders. You have co-founders.
Hmm.
The husband is the CEO, the wife is the CTO or the CFO. It's the brother and sister duo or the friends duo. These are the combinations. So I am waiting for a day where it's going to be a completely, an organization built by a woman.
Hmm.
You need strong girls to come out and say yes. But here, the whole challenge, Sam, is finance. See, because people still have that mindset that a woman can run 100 meters, just to give you an example, and a
Hmm.
man can run a marathon. So, do I invest in 100 meters or do I invest in a marathon?
Understood.
Right? And how is she going to take forward? Because if she is not married, probably she will be married, and the myth is still there in their mind. She'll get married, she'll have children, she has to take care of the family. So, how is the deep tech going to be working? Then you need to be an engineer. If you're going to be working in a deep tech organization or industry, you got to be an engineer or a scientist or somebody hardcore in science background. If you're not, then you're not fit to speak about that. Again, I'm breaking that myth. I said, no, I may
Sure.
not be a scientist or an engineer, but I can create one. It's how you build the ecosystem. That's more important. It's not that you stand alone. You need to stand together. That's more important. So I
I,
think
I
that
think that's
way,
so, I think that's so interesting because it speaks to some fundamental misconceptions about what technology development, what good science, what good engineering takes. It isn't just math. It's about understanding the commercial ecosystem. It's about building political support. It's about running a team.
yes.
These are skills that I would argue that women are much better at than most men.
You're right,
So
Sam. You're perfectly
it's
right.
true. Yeah,
You're
it's true.
perfectly
I,
right.
I, I think it's really important that young girls understand. Because I mean, it's a general misconsensus, right? There's
Yes,
plenty of
yes,
room for men and women who don't have a hard math or hard engineering background. What it takes to start a company is guts and vision and an ability to incentivize people and run a team and generate funding. And those are not hard science skills. So I think the more we see people like yourselves who are coming from a sort of it isn't just that you're a woman, it's that you're coming from a non-traditional sort of space engineering background, and you're showing that you can succeed better than most. So the next question,
you're kind.
the last, no, I did for sure. I mean, all that work with the spatula, it comes in handy at the end of the day, right? It's all about essentially business, technology, science, engineering. It's all cooking. It's getting the right ingredients. It's knowing how to put them together.
Put
It's
them
understanding
together, add the flavor.
it's understanding how to cook them right. Um,
Yes.
so how can people get involved with this next project? Obviously, we'll link to to everything that you're doing. What kind of support do you need? What are you looking for? How can people get in touch? How can people get involved, whether
The
organizational or as individuals?
I think now, firstly, we started onboarding countries. So, grace of God, we've onboarded 104 countries now. and we've got ambassadors, women leaders, from all these countries, and they will be identifying the 108 children from each of the countries because it's difficult for us to go there and choose. So that first segment is done. The curriculum on parallel is done. But to get everything to fuel up, you know what we need. It is the money. So predominantly, it can come from organizations, it can come from individuals because, we are a registered trust foundation here in India with all the
Mhm.
certifications and proofs and everything. So we can have partners. If so, we don't need, directly you don't want to give us money, no worries. We have different things that people can actually donate for. We are going to be bringing 108 children and 108 leaders, which means and technologists. So it's going to be close to 300 people from 108 countries. So if there are potential airline partners who can give two
Sure.
seats from each country, so if they can come on board, that will be a wonderful gesture. The next thing would be components because definitely we need a huge support for the components. So you don't want to give us money, no worries. We will give you the list of components. If you are coming from the aerospace or the engineering organizations that would love to donate components for us, we're more than happy. If you're happy to we can design and give the PCBs, and we can give design the the structure and everything. If you're willing to fabricate that for us, most welcome. So like this, we have broken down everything, and t-shirt for girls, mementos, all these things that can make them feel happy about souvenirs and all that, because we're not bringing all the 108 to India. So that's a big worry
Right.
because all the girls are like, why are you doing this? Why are you choosing only one? But what to do, this one itself was so much. So hopefully we will do that, uh, you know with many other children, they will get opportunities. So this way, Sam, we've broken it down, and we have our foundation that whatever the foundation has done for the last 5 6 years, everything is there
Mhm.
on our web page and everything, so they can go, they can look around, they can interact, have a meeting, and whatever they feel like, you know one dime or dollar. I think there's so much of population in the world. If everybody feels that they need to give hope to the girls, we could go to the moon 3 times.
Dr. Kasan, thank you so much for joining us today. I found this an extraordinarily inspirational conversation. I wish you all the best. Anything we can do, let us know. Thank you for joining us, and join us next time.
Thank you so much, Sam. You've been too kind. Thank you.